Neymar. Now, Jorge Jesus, his coach at Al Hilal, came out yesterday with a quote which I found pretty interesting. He basically said he's not going to be registered for the second half of the Saudi Pro League season, but he can participate in the Asian Champions League. And now the interesting bit. Neymar is world class, but the truth is, physically, Neymar can no longer perform at the level we are used to. So the story over the last 48 hours, Shaka, has been Chicago Fire in Major League Soccer. Representatives from them, including the owner and the head coach, supposedly have been in Saudi Arabia to potentially try and do a deal. Now, before I get your thoughts on that, I want to read you a headline from the New York Times today. They did an opinion piece on whether Neymar would be good for MLS, and it's pretty damning. This is just the headline. It said Neymar to MLS would be a failed signing for him, Chicago Fire, and for the league. How do you react to that headline from the opinion piece in today's New York Times?
Strong. I'm not sure I share that. I share that opinion. I know, to your earlier comment, Mark, Neymar, like players who go to Saudi Arabia or come to MLS, is at the back end of his career. He does not have the superhuman powers that we've become used to over previous years. And I know we could probably question that sitting in Neymar's case a whole lot earlier. So that's, that doesn't change anything about how I feel about Neymar. You do wonder if he warrants the kind of salary that he was commanding in Saudi Arabia, given his limited minutes. And I know a major injury kind of dictated that. That's not the point I'm raising here. But now, if you're Al Hilal, you're wondering, do we maintain that investment on that uncertain ground? How does he recover from his injury? From a MLS perspective, you see what Lionel Messi has done in Major League Soccer. You see what the likes of Sergio Busquets has done, Alba has done, Suarez has done, and you're thinking, well, Neymar could probably do similar. And while the initial links were with Inter Miami, given the MSM and everything that's MSN and everything that we've seen in Barcelona, you understand it. We also questioned previously, Mark, how does that work with financial caps and or everything else? I don't know how to start with that. But now all of a sudden other clubs are interested. No real surprise. Again, given the impact that the others and nobody's leaning on Messi, let's be honest here. But given the impact that others have had elsewhere in the league, it makes sense. And while you can question Neymar and his ability in this league, I have done so time and time again over the years, and I found almost to a rule. I don't know, people probably write in and offer exceptions, but strikers fare a whole lot better, or strikers who are at the back end of their respective careers fare a whole lot better in Major League Soccer than midfielders or defenders. Ibrahimovic came and did wonderfully well. Wayne Rooney, though his powers were waning, came here and did wonderfully well. The likes of Steven Gerrard, a midfielder, not so much. Neymar being a striker, if he's fit, and again, we don't know, ACL injuries are as much success as we've had with them of late, they are still a major injury, a major disruption. If he regains anything near to his fitness, I don't see why Neymar isn't a success. Whether it's the commercial success that you see in Miami, we could debate, kind of given the television markets, etc. But as far as a player goes, I see no reason to believe that Neymar won't perform and perform well.
I've just got visions of a few people leaving their laptops or their mobile cell phones and going and getting some paper and writing a letter in. But to complain about what Shaka Hislop's just said, remember and put a stamped addressed envelope in there if you want a reply and a signed photo.
Make sure and get enough stamps on there, otherwise it's going to be right. Well, right?
Exactly.
I'm warning you.
I love Chicago, but Chicago in the winters is not Saudi Arabia. It's not
No.
Miami. It's not Brazil, where Neymar's from, where he played all those years at Santos as a teenager. But it depends on a lot of things. You can look at this in many different ways, and you wouldn't be wrong. The bottom line is nobody knows, not even Neymar knows how he's going to recover, if he's going to recover fully, what he's going to be like from that. So there is an element of a gamble here. Now, you, me, and Janusz last week on ESPN FC Live spoke about potentially Neymar going to Inter Miami. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. But of the three of them, Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi are both 37. Neymar's 32, turns 33 next month. Neymar's the one you're looking for to maybe get 2 or 3 years of longevity out of this. So would the money be better spent elsewhere by Chicago Fire, or is this being done as a, hey, hold on a minute here, Inter Miami are getting all this global attention, not necessarily MLS attention, but attention from everywhere else in the world because they've got Lionel Messi. We want some of our own.
I think it's the latter. Neymar commands attention, and again, nobody's Lionel Messi other than Cristiano Ronaldo, right? And he's not moving from Saudi Arabia anytime soon.
Sure.
Even with these kind of lax interpretations of whatever the salary cap is, I don't think anybody comes close to matching what Cristiano Ronaldo is commanding out there. Other than that, in the next tier of players available to Major League Soccer, I think Neymar is head of the list, head of the class. So you take that gamble if you do want to put yourself in that limelight. And let me also say this too. Credit to Chicago for taking that gamble, because again, if this were not a Miami or if this were Miami or one of the LA teams, I don't think anybody questions that. I don't think anybody questions the value of it and whether that money is right to be spent elsewhere. But we've become so used to Inter Miami spending this kind of money, and albeit recently, but Inter Miami has always had that kind of aura about it with the David Beckham ownership, etc., etc. LA Galaxy has always had that aura about it. They were the ones who would break the bank to bring players in. Nobody questioned that. You've seen LAFC follow fairly similarly, though they spent a little better. And I'm thinking of like Carlos Vela and his return on your investment. But if LAFC were linked with Neymar, I don't think anybody asked that question about is this money better spent elsewhere, because they're these big markets. So I feel just to do so for Chicago isn't really fair to Chicago. Fair play to them for throwing their hat in the ring.
I get that. The reason I ask is they won 7 of 34 games in Major League Soccer last season and finished bottom of the pile. So how big a difference?
Where were Miami? Where were Miami?
Oh,
Miami were rock bottom when Messi joined, if memory serves correctly.
Messi's been able to have that impact on Inter Miami, where they were rubbish, and then they ended up winning the Supporters' Shield for the regular season best team. So yes, Messi's done it there. And you got to remember as well, there's two things you know about MLS. You played here. It's a league where if someone comes from overseas and buys into it, they can be successful. Yeah. And they can help others be successful as well. And I don't know, Neymar, I mean, I've commentated on when he was in the Brasileirão for a while. If he was to buy into this, there's no reason why they certainly would get better. How much better could they get? But I think that's a good point you make.
And let's assume, because so much is up in the air right now, let's assume that Neymar comes in, buys in, and does exactly what Lionel Messi did at Inter Miami, but at Chicago. And that Neymar brings in a couple of the Brazilians, Fernandinho, and a couple others to join. Maybe, Thiago Silva to come and I'm just trying to think of a defender midfielder as Inter Miami did. Let's assume he does that. I think it works. I absolutely think it works. And again, fair play for Chicago for throwing their hat in a ring that maybe nobody expected them to. Maybe people question their motivations or their ability to, but Chicago thought, hey, I could play in this game that that has only a couple of players in it, in the LA clubs and Miami clubs. I can do that. Fair play to them.